among the choices, it's probably better than listening to voices raging in my head saying point and shoot. Then after you're dead, your face meets my boot. I don't know your name, it's better that way, cause I can't play this game, who knows what I'll say. I feel like I'm burning, I've had it up to here. It's time that you were learning the meaning of fear. I live in these apartments, are your private property among your residents. Most of us agree that you're a piece of shit. How does that make you feel? We don't like you one bit, and that's for real. We think you're a thief, that you don't care. Seems your one belief is whatever the market will bear. Whatever you can get away with, what you can make us pay. If we ever get justice, you should fear that day. Landlord, landlord. But it's not just you, it's all your kin. The things you do cause the state we're in. You bribe the politicians so they let you off lead. Now the legal situation's just the one you need. For you to make millions, for profits to be high, but even billions won't be with you when you die. I hope you find the death you seek, meet the devil that you serve. If you live another week, that's more life than you deserve. Landlord, war you're waging, there's no question who is winning. But if there's any justice, this is only the beginning. The next act in the play will be written by the tenants, and until your dying day you'll be paying penance. Your assets will be seized, that's a given. You profiteers of misery start spending time in prison. Then you can get a job, figure out what you do best. You can can't us living, but we're taking all the rest. Landlord, landlord, yo landlord. Well, it is a pleasure to be in the presence of people who will not get tired of hearing about strangling my landlord. Because usually other audiences, you know, they start wondering if I have an anger management problem. But then lately they wonder that less and less because everybody's rent is going up all over the place. So the global financial crisis has something to do with this situation. And I wrote a song about it. Specifically, I wrote a song about the way that the folks in Iceland dealt with the global financial crisis. My favorite headline, all amongst the bad headlines about evictions and rents going up and gentrification and all kinds of shenanigans in various places like Washington, D.C., my favorite headline that isn't like that is the one that starts out with banker begins serving prison sentence. And the trick when you see that headline is you just savor it for a moment, because invariably the next line is going to be Reykjavik, Iceland, because the only people that seem to be able to jail their bankers on a regular basis are the Icelanders, and I think we should take a cue from them. Iceland is an island with 500,000 or so Vikings, mostly known for volcanoes, hot springs, and fishing. Known for its welfare state for being good and socialistic. Certainly not known for being corrupt or nepotistic, but in the USA and Europe, when they were deregulating banks, Iceland's politicians took bribes to join their ranks. Soon you had a situation one would think just couldn't be. A bank whose debt was worth 10 times the country's GDP. When Wall Street imploded, sure enough it spread. Banks all over the world were floating in the red. All over the world, governments made the plan to cut spending and raise taxes on the working woman and working man. The bankers bailed out, but the people had to pay. But at Iceland, people thought there must be a better way. And the earth stood still a moment. Fear was struck in every top. When Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. That's the chorus. It's therapeutic to sing with me, I promise. folks were in the streets in Reykjavik and just couldn't be ignored. They said this is a debt we Icelanders can't afford. Let's guarantee deposits of all our people, yes indeed. But as for all the speculators motivated by their greed to make really dumb investments, to them Iceland said good luck. Sorry for your losses, but we don't really give a fuck. The 1% all trembled when they took away the trough. When Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. The UK called them terrorists, said they cannot let this stand. Who do these peacenik blondes think they are in Iceland? They threatened isolation and economy in flames. But the Icelanders said sorry, but the banks can settle their own claims, though that might be harder for them now that they're under house arrest. Or else they fled the country as they were most unwelcome guests. And now Reykjavik's recovery just makes the fat cats cough, since Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. If you haven't heard of this example, perhaps there's a reason why the owners of the world don't want this kind of shit to fly. They say we all must pay up in this shakedown by the mob if we can't afford to pay the rent because we don't have a job. They say it's not their problem if we're forever shackled by their debt. We must save the 1% from the fate they should have met. But there is an alternative, though it makes the fat cats scoff, that Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. That Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers, Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. Can you guys hear in the back? Like if there's anybody back there who wants to hear, you can come to the front, because I assume you can't probably hear back there. Certainly not while you're talking, but that's okay. I'll be background music. I will fly across North America to be background music. Some exercise in humility. There's a heat wave in Portland. The sun shines down. Sprinklers are running all over town. It's hot too in Yemen, but lucky for us, nobody here was on that bus where 44 children died. Buses pass by, and they pass by again. In Sana the bus left, came back, and then 44 children died. The bombings go on. I guess they should have stayed home. Now they're all gone. 44 children died. Bodies and fragments of bombs litter the market square. On most of the fragments, if you wash off the blood, you'll see USA written there, where 44 children died. Well, after writing about 20 songs about strangling my landlord, I thought I should do the sort of, fair and equal and just, and, look at things from the other side. So I wrote a song called Do Not Kill Your Landlord. I don't know why it seems to make them nervous whenever I sing it in front of their houses, If your rent has doubled, there are different ways to cope with the situation and make it through your days. There are therapeutic methods, such as playing darts with a picture of your landlord's private body parts. You can get a roommate, or 2 or 3 or 4. Build a loft and squeeze more beds onto every floor. You can scratch up each Mercedes that you find on your street. Say fuck off yuppie scum to each yuppie scum you meet. But do not kill your landlord, it will not end well. You'll be living rent-free inside a prison cell. You can pay a visit very early in the morn to where your landlord lives, but don't forget the bullhorn. You can form a samba band, march up and down his road. You can play with firecrackers as you watch them explode. You can sing a song about 1848 when renters burned the mansions down and overthrew the state. You can talk about your landlord, how much you'd like to see him dead. Just make sure it remains only something that you said. Yes, do not kill your landlord, it will not end well. You'll be living rent-free inside a prison cell. Say hi to your neighbors, organize a meeting, form a tenants union so it won't be something fleeting. Have some demonstrations, make plans for rent strike, create a list of demands, perhaps something like no more rent increases, fix the things that break, get rid of all that mold in the walls, for goodness sake. No more no-cause evictions, no more acting like an ass, no more acting like a member of a feudal ruling class. But do not kill your landlord, it will not end well. You'll be living rent-free inside a prison cell. Well, I wrote a song just a few days ago, and I wrote 2 others, but I'll do the one I wrote a few days ago. This is somewhat autobiographical for me and most other people from this continent. We're refugees, that should be a normal thing to say. I was born in New York City, my people came from far away. They fled the generals and dictators, the warlords of Moscow and Budapest. You could be conscripted for the rest of your life, or you could head west. My great-great-grandparents were refugees too, from just north and south of Brittany. Farmers in the hills somewhere on the starving side of the Irish Sea. They fled their colonial torturers. They fled starvation, slavery. They fled across the Atlantic along with millions of other refugees. My great-grandparents were refugees, but getting to the other side took such a toll, it seems, that my great-grandfather died. So when his son was a little kid, he grew up without a dad. And that's typical of the hard life so many other refugees had. My great-grandparents were refugees. Let me tell you what that means. They were escaping war-torn lands ruled by tyrants, kings, and queens. They did not come seeking fortune. They were not pioneers. Leaving home, their hearts were broken. All their cries fell on deaf ears. Great-grandparents were refugees. No one taught me that in school. It's dangerous information in the old game of divide and rule. My name is David Rovics, and I know who my people are. They're on that raft upon the ocean. They're in the trunk of that car. My great-grandparents were refugees. That should be a normal thing to say. I was born in New York City. My people came from far away. Two weeks after Trump announced that Muslims would not be welcome in his country, there was a headline on the BBC on December 21st, 2015, or was it 2015? Yeah. About an incident that had happened on a bus in Kenya. It was a rare story about a massacre that did not take place. It's a long way from Nairobi, travel across the country to an arid northern little border town. If you leave early in the day, you'll still be on your way long after the sun is going down. It began as just a ride to the other side, but then was interrupted by the sound of the shattering of glass as the driver tried to pass the men with guns there in the dusty desert found. There were two already dead, another shot as she fled. No question here whose lives were now at stake. When all is said and done, it is instances like this one, when every move is one that just might make or break. All passengers get out, men with guns began to shout, "You Christians now get up against the wall." But then everyone stayed still, saying, "Now do as you will, you may leave, or you may kill us all." It wasn't far away, just over a year ago today, when people were massacred exactly in this manner. The pattern, it was clear. All the Muslims here would be safe if they just stood beside this banner. Headscarves passed from hand to hand among this human band. Live together or together fall. And then nobody moved, showing each of them approved of saying, "You may leave, or you may kill us all." It wasn't set in stone, there's no way they could have known that this time, this act of solidarity would see the gunmen leave, goals left unachieved on the border there in Mandara County. But sometimes you take a chance, then at a second glance you see you change the world with the passing of a shawl. There are those who will remember, those who on one day in December said you may leave, or you may kill us all. You may leave, or you may kill us all. You may leave. Thank you. Well, I'll do a song for a famous Canadian who was not Canadian. Robert Ross was from Ross Trevor. He was born in County Down. His family was given land there in the British Crown. He was a man born of the gentry, born with wealth and fame, but he joined the British Army to serve his queen and make his name. In the Napoleonic Wars, he fought in many lands, in Holland and in Spain, in the far-off Egyptian sands. He was wounded there in battle, came back to fight another day, and he was sent off to attack the USA. York had been sacked and burned by invading Yankee men, but the Canadians regrouped, chased the Yankees home, and then the British Navy made its way to the shores of D.C. town, where General Ross burned the White House down. The year was 1814, the U.S. was in retreat. It was a Canadian victory, an American defeat. Without the French to help them, they got their ass whipped by the Crown when General Ross burned the White House down. The place had just been constructed only 12 years before, but it had to be rebuilt soon after this disastrous war. The president turned tail and ran like a raggedy clown when General Ross burned the White House down. He was killed a few months later. Irish rebels stopped him in his tracks. He was buried in Nova Scotia, in the town of Halifax. He might have been forgotten, but he'll forever be renowned. He's the man who burned the White House down. He's the man who burned the White House down. I don't know how many people have read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Shirer, but it's a classic book about Nazi Germany. But while he was in Nazi Germany, after he wrote the Third Reich, the Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, he wrote a memoir about his time living in Berlin in the 30s called Berlin Diary. And I was driving around Europe last spring and writing and listening to books. History doesn't repeat, they say, but it often appears it does. Enough so that it seems like we should know just how it was when in another time and place, the party in the driver's seat, the Social Democrats ruled on behalf of the elite. The next person who arose to lead the state said he'd stand up for his people and make his country great. He said everyone's exploiting us, and the reason why is we've been ruled by weaklings, and it's time we must reply. Military spending and industry grew, and the razor wire tent camps did too. He said we'll take the country back, and standing on the brink, he said it's anarchy or me. We can rise, or we can sink. Blood and soil. From Budapest to London, from Chicago to Milan, there was the specter of all those so inspired by the man. He signed treaties that were broken before the ink was dry. He left the League of Nations, and time ministers would try appeasement, but whatever they would do, the Fuhrer would just tighten the screws. Most of the news seemed real, at least after a while. The same propaganda, wherever on the dial. Germany was the victim, it would be victim no more. That's what he was saying years before the war. Years before the Blitzkrieg, before extermination became the fate of so many then living in the nation for blood and soil. Talked of enemies within, enemies outside, who together had conspired, stolen and lied. He said they took us for a ride, with treaties signed by those serving foreign interests of every area knows. But follow me, he said, you won't recognize the place will be great again. We're the master race. People look back and wonder what could have been done many years before the war was won. When social institutions fell one after the next, and then faster than almost anyone expected. Few people could have even imagined the cost. Once it was too late, and the chance for peace was lost for blood and soil. For blood and soil. Blood and soil. Thank you. And I'll do one more and take a break and then see what happens. Oh, sure. Ah, you never know. Depends who's defining these terms, you know. I don't drive a car because they run on gas, but if I did, it'd run on biomass. I ride a bike, or sometimes a skateboard, so fuck off all you drivers and your yuppie hordes, sitting all day in the traffic queues. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't eat meat, I just live on moldy chives, or the donuts that I found in last week's dumpster dives. Look, you people in that restaurant, I think you are so sad when you could have been eating bagels like the ones that I just had. I think it is a shame all the bourgeois things you do. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't wear leather and my clothes and I like my clothes in black, and I made a really cool hammock from a moldy coffee sack. I like to hop on freight trains, I think that is so cool. It's so much funner doing this than being stuck in school. I can't believe you're wearing those brand new shiny shoes. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't have sex, and there will be no sequel, because heterosexual relationships are inherently unequal. I'll just keep on moshing to anti-flag and crass until there are no differences in gender, race, or class. All you brainwashed breeders, you just haven't got a clue. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't believe in leaders, I think consensus is the key. I don't believe in stupid notions like representative democracy. Whether or not it works, I know it is the case that only direct action can save the human race. So when I see you in your voting booth, then I know it's true. I'm a better anarchist than you. I am not a pacifist, I like throwing bricks, and when the cops have caught me and I've taken a few licks, I always feel lucky if I get a bloody nose, because I feel so militant and everybody knows. By the time the riot is all through, I'm a better anarchist than you. I'm a better anarchist risk than you. Thank you.